I guess we want to get an understanding of how did CANPOLIN come to exist?
Well, it had its fits and starts to begin with. We had to put in a letter of intent with the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council, which I worked on very closely with Lawrence Packer of York University. And we had to do that no fewer than 4 times before eventually NSERC said, yes, put in a full proposal. And then when we put in the full proposal, we learned that we were successful. So it was a 4 or 5 year process of tapping on the door and and sort of knocking on the door. So Lawrence and I were able to really sort of keep each other's morale up while this process was going on, and eventually we managed to put it all together.
And obviously perseverance paid off. This was a 5-year process to get it to that. Why was the time so right for CANPOLIN?
Well, I think even when we'd started, we already knew there was a fair amount coming out in the literature that pollinators and pollination had problems around the world. There were numbers of instances coming from different countries, including from Canada, that yes, we've got some problems in this particular location or that location or some other location. And we were seeing these all over the place, but isolated and fairly localized, but they were becoming increasingly frequent. So I think the recognition that yes, we're on the verge of looking at something a little more serious, and also we're looking at an ecosystem function rather than just, you know, a particular species or a particular group of species. And of course, very much in the food chain. And you know, it's been said that 1 in 3 bites of all the food we eat comes as a result of insect pollination. And beekeeping is very important on that. We know we had problems in beekeeping, and we had developed in Canada a good reputation internationally for excellence in beekeeping and also in management of other pollinators besides the western honeybee. We had a national legacy in that area, plus an international reputation. So I think all those sorts of things came together at the same time, which then allowed for CANPOLIN to really say, yes, this is something we need to pay attention to.
Why was this networked approach the best approach for CANPOLIN?
Well, one of the main things with pollination is that you really need zoologists, particularly entomologists. You need people in the practical side of entomology, like, who are interested in pest insects and pollinators and bees and all those sorts of things. So you need the zoological side, and then you need all the people who are associated with the botanical side, who are going to know something about plant breeding systems and plant mating systems and the importance of pollination in plant breeding and plant mating systems, and how those things fit together in a harmonious and integrated fashion. And then the whole business of sort of the ecological interactions between the pollinators and the plants becomes very complicated, and trying to understand how ecosystems function, both in agricultural systems as well as natural systems, is a major issue. So that sort of brings in a lot of different people, a very great interdisciplinary team, and again with economists brought in as well, and people interested in climate change. Really, it became obvious to me when I started doing this with Lawrence a decade ago, was that yes, we needed a big group of people who were all sort of coming at the same problem but from different avenues.
So it seems like its own sort of research ecology. You know, you've got the scientists, you've got the botanists, you've got the zoologists, you've got the economists, the climatologists, meteorologists.
Yeah, exactly. And when we started, we didn't have the idea that our network was going to be a group of people who already knew each other or knew of each other. It was open-ended. Anybody could join. The invitation went out broadly, and anybody who wished to join in was encouraged to join in.
So the impression I got from, you know, reading the materials, it's been an incredibly inclusive process. You know, you've got, you know, lots of graduate students. You've essentially trained the next generation of, you know, pollinator specialists. You know, there's a lot of HQP being developed in the process.
My feeling is, with respect to how many people have been associated with CANPOLIN, I would expect that if we were to count them all up, you know, sort of as long as they were somehow officially affiliated, with CANPOLIN, it would probably be over 200 people.
You know, as you come to the end of this 5-year journey, you've involved 200 people, in incredible amount of engagement with local communities, both in Canada, the US, and internationally. What do you think has been one of the greatest achievements?
It's a very difficult question to answer, because I think there's been a number of achievements. Mm-hmm. Certainly, talking about Canada, we now really do understand to a much greater degree than we did before our bee fauna right the way across the country. Mm-hmm. We've got about 800 species of bees now that are well recognized, and we know where they are, and we have the maps and the taxonomy worked out. The same is true of the flower flies, although not to the same degree of detail. Mm-hmm. And that's really a remarkable achievement for any nation to have that sort of inventory, because it's not just an inventory of specimens, it's an inventory of genetic barcodes as well, so it goes beyond that. So that's been a tremendous advance. I think certainly in our way of being able to help the beekeeping industry has been tremendous. I mean, the money that's come into CANPOLIN and has gone to the people in apiculture has been very, very helpful on that front. The ecological side of things, we really are sort of making advances. We have certainly an international reputation for doing that right. Mm-hmm. And it's far more than just descriptive ecology. Mm-hmm. That's going on. And the mathematical side that I mentioned is being, we're told by our European colleagues that we're at least 2 years ahead of them in terms of our way of looking at things. So those are major contributions. The economics has been mostly on changes in demography in the beekeeping industry, so that's useful for the beekeeping industry again. And climate change modeling has given us some insights into why we're losing certain pollinators in some certain areas and what we might expect. So all that sort of stuff is really putting Canada on the map.
This is an important issue, and hopefully all the work you guys have done in the preceding 5 years will be very effective in moving the yardstick along.
Indeed. Let's hope for a good legacy. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah.